Hey, Task family. Good night. Good night. Happy Friday. It is Friday. Another Task interview. We're so excited tonight to have Megan Craft with us. Before Megan come on, waiting for her to come on. We are celebrating our CP, Cerebral Palsy Awareness Month. As you can see, this is our subscription box. Let's take a look what's in the box. She is here already. Hey, Megan, how are you?
Perfect.
I'm good. I see you wearing your green. And you're wearing your shirt. It is so cute, Megan. I love it. We have to purchase some of those for our upcoming box. Thank you for joining us. Tell our Task family who you are.
My name is Megan
Give them
Craft.
your name and give them
I'm a speech
something about you.
pathologist. I'm also an indie author and something interesting. I'm obsessed with turtles and tortoises, and I have kind of a weird obsession with Pokemon. So the idea came from when I was in private practice, fresh out of graduate school, during fellowship year. I was having conversations with parents, and I love the reading of aspect, like the reading aspect to your kids, to like with your whoever. And I started that as like a recommendation to just read and interact with your kids. And I had one very sweet mom mention that she can't find her son on a bookshelf. And it kind of, it struck a chord. And so I kind of did a little bit of research, and she was right. A lot of the books that would represent her son are more like medical based or really textbooks at that.
You were here. What exactly were you hearing in the IEP meetings? What books were you hearing that wasn't missing in, that they weren't seeing on shelves? Was it inclusive books about children with special needs?
My first parent that had mentioned it, she had he was in a wheelchair, he had a feeding tube, and then the other ones, they were either on the autism spectrum or they were nonverbal, and we were still like looking at genetics and stuff, but they couldn't find characters for them as parents or their kids to really identify with. And the one at school that I heard about, she didn't really see inclusivity like in playgrounds or in classroom settings. And so that really was like, wow, you're right. The books you pull off the shelf have typical developing children in the pictures, and you don't see the disability representation kind of intertwined with all kids.
Margot, why did you decide to make the character? Because this is amazing, because I haven't seen any character with a feeding tube. So when I saw it, I was like, feeding tube? We needed this.
Books that represented the students I worked with, it felt impossible. And I was like, this shouldn't be that hard. And so I just kind of was like, what about mission inclusion? Like, my mission is to include. So that's kind of where it came.
Okay, it makes sense. So what is next, Megan? What is next?
What is next?
What is next? You have merch. You have all of these different things, night clothes. We have wrapping paper. There's so many things that you're doing. Every time I turn around, I was like, oh God, Megan is coming out with something else.
Yeah.
What is next, Megan?
That's a really good question and a hard question. And I originally wanted this to be a book series, but the more I kind of expand it, I think it's only like the best thing to do to really make it into a brand, that a way that it's kind of expanding everywhere, where we can see inclusion on clothes, we can see inclusion at birthday parties, we can go and I totally lost my thought.
Well,
but
like,
yeah, but to have representation, disability representation everywhere, that a way it's a topic of conversation. It's something that we're starting to see on a regular basis. Like, I think about Target, for example. When we go into Target now to see the representation that they're showing, I want that to be on clothes, on shoes, on, you know, everyday activities. I think about pull-ups. Like, are there
Yes.
there's no disabilities represented on pull-ups.
No.
And so it's just something so simple, or it seems simple, but it's not seen enough. I want it to be everywhere.
So
So
you
that's
visible. You want it to be visible. And really, when I saw your wrapping paper, I was like, what a great idea. You know, imagine you're going to a party and yes, this child has a disability, and to see everyone come with that wrapping paper and really understanding representation of this child.
mm-hmm.
You know, I could only imagine the joy on their faces because you've never seen a wrapping paper
Yep.
that shows a child in a wheelchair. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a great idea. So you branding out, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. You know, your night clothes, everything, you know, all this merch that you're putting out, it is representation of our children. You know, I reached out to you because I was looking for a Christmas book.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for a Christmas book. I was reaching out to different authors. They were sending me their book, and I was like, but I need a Christmas book that represented inclusion. I was like, but this doesn't represent. And all of a sudden, we talked about Psy because, you know, that was the book that caught my eye. I was like, okay, we got to do Psy. We got to put Psy in our book. And then you said, and then you said, oh, I'm doing it. It was the best thing. I have my Christmas book because, you know, I purchased my book.
Yeah.
So I was excited to get this Christmas book. I was so excited to see this representation on I have never seen so many different kids being represented. I was so excited about this book, and I can't wait for you to get more of this book.
Oh,
I'm telling you, I was so in love with all of these kids. You know, just it's a conversation starter. You know, you're really having this conversation. I didn't see anything like this. I was like, okay, we have to get this book in our subscription box. So how did you feel when I reached out to you, asking you to be a part of our subscription journey?
I would say, talking to you that one day at work, it was almost like an aha moment. It was just so real to sit there and talk to you on the phone. And then I mean, everyone says like we're our biggest critics, but I felt like when I got off the phone, I was like, oh man, this is probably not going to happen, but you know, I'll keep trying. And so the fact that it happened, oh my gosh. And then, so it was definitely one of the highlights, just to have you wanting to have something of mine in one of your subscription boxes. So it totally meant the world to me, and I'm forever thankful that I had that opportunity to do that.
No, when I say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I tell the authors, I say, you know what? You would send me your merchant, send me your t-shirts, send me whatever you want to send me, your expression cards. It's going to get in one of our boxes. I'm going to
say that this next time I'll be better prepared, because I felt like I was super underprepared, but now I have an idea of what you expect. So
well, you know what? It's been a good year that we started it. So, you know, working with every author, it's different. And for us, we've learned it. It's trial and error. It's basically trial and error. For us, I'm like, okay, now that she has the merchandise, I don't mind someone saying, you know what? We have a subscription box. We're displaying your book, but I also have merch. So if the whole box could be from you, and instead of us reaching out to other vendors, that is fine. That's something that, as long as you tell me, you know, it's all about communication. I always feel that I want to share that author's journey and their story. There's so much you get to know about a person by what they're putting out. You know, I saw your family and they're so sweet. Your kids are so sweet. And they're showing these stuff, and they're reading the books. They're so involved. You know, I kept on saying to my husband, it's so important, us as parents, that it starts from in our home. It really does start from in our home. And I was just happy that you said yes. And you gave us that opportunity to really share your work, you know, to share your journey. I'm like, okay, why mission? And I thought about Mission Impossible. I was like, this is Mission Impossible. I thought about it. I was like, mission, right? Mission inclusion. So important for us to see ourselves in our books. So important to have representation. So important to support those families that's dealing with it as well. Because the feeding tube, I was like, oh my God, I looked. I was like, but I don't see any books about this. I'm looking. I didn't see it there. So to have representation and then to have those conversation starters in your home first, and then your child goes to school and they're able to communicate with that child, even if they have autism, even if they have some kind of medical condition, you are having those open conversations with your children. And for me, that means the world to me. I was just happy that, how I feel about my speech pathologists. I love you guys because I'm like, oh my God, they saved my son's life. When I was told that Trey would never speak, he would never have a conversation. Here he is now, driving me crazy. Always wanted a new parent. He's having those conversations, and I'm just happy. The reason why we decided to start this is because we just want other parents to have support, have resources. Sometimes you're waiting forever. Right now, we've been waiting, I would say, almost a year for Trey to get services. I want him to do self-direction. I want him to do it. I can show him, but it's not the same. And I've been waiting. We finally got OPWDD services. Now we're dealing with a provider. It's almost a year we're waiting. And I'm like, how are parents handling waiting for the resource they need? Yes, I'm a professional I'm 24 years. I'm a social worker and I know how to get resources. But what happened to those parents that can't get resources? How do you help those parents, Megan, get the resources that they need for their children?
I don't for the people that I like, the students and stuff that I work with. Mm-hmm. We have down here what we call like the Gulf Coast Center, and it's whenever we write an evaluation or whenever we talk to our parents, it's like information we provide to them. Mm-hmm. And they also have like different clinics or different outside of school-based intervention that we kind of discuss with the parents. It can get tricky because the school is not financially able to cover the stuff outside of the school. And so we kind of have to let them know like what the resources are and that they can look into them. I think the main almost like age group that we really focus before they get into school is the early childhood intervention. So getting them to understand how early services can start, kind of like timeline.
Yes.
And with you saying like a year to get different services, I know thinking like when your kid's first diagnosed to thinking about the future, mm-hmm. thing that we think about too is, like getting them on wait lists, mm-hmm. because it's insanely crazy, mm-hmm. that 10 plus, 12 plus, sometimes 15, 17 plus years before those services are available. And so the younger we can have those conversations with these parents, the better off they will as a family unit as their kids get a little bit older. And I do know can be very overwhelming. Yeah. So almost to start early and then kind of slowly weave into those conversations every year kind of helps. Mm-hmm. And then you're kind of having those crucial conversations before it gets a little too late. So
early intervention is the key. Mm-hmm. And I've told parents that early intervention is crucial. It is crucial. It's very important, and that's why we have these conversations. That's why we're like an open book. Yeah. I tell people, I said, we didn't get early intervention. I'm very honest about it. We didn't get early intervention. Oftentimes, our parents, as a parent, I myself, we're in denial of the diagnosis. We don't know how to handle it. We have our own issues to deal with. And I tell people, just forget about your issues, more in that issue that you're dealing with, because you're taking off and running to try to save your child's lives. But I thank you for what you're doing. I thank you that you're working with our families, because oftentimes it's hard. You're telling, oh, you need to do this amount of speech. You got to do this amount of OT. You got to do this amount of PT. It oftentimes might be overwhelming for that family. But when they have a speech pathologist like you, who love what they do, and you give them those resources. And now here you are with books, with books, meaningful books that parents could relate to. During the time, I always tell my husband, during the time that you're waiting, that wait time that you're waiting for services, it's always important to have resources. So that's what our subscription box became, a resource for parents while they wait on their services, a resource. People reach out to us. They reach out to us and say, okay, how can we do this? What city are you in? What do you need? And we're grateful for that. And we're speaking to people like you so you can give them resources. And you're writing these one, and you do a coloring book. See, I didn't forget I had my coloring book too as well.
I always forget about that one, so it's okay.
No, I can't forget about the coloring book because the kids, you're talking about motor skills. You're talking about, I'm always about some adaptive tool or something that can help them. And this is what you create. You continue to create these wonderful merch, wonderful resources for these families. And we thank you. So next we have 2 more characters coming out. Have any ideas? Because we want to get the first scoop of when this is going to drop.
Well, before I answer that, I just want to thank you so much for all of this. The community that I found through starting this has been amazing. And I also take the books that I've learned and all the authors and stuff that I have met and still meeting. I love those too as resources for now when I have those conversations with parents when they're like, hey, my daughter or my son's not being represented. I'm like, you know what? I now have a book for that most times. So I'm super grateful for that now. And yes, so coming up, I have Nash, and then I also have Keely coming out. I don't have an announcement date or anything, but I'm hoping that they should be ready before summer. I learned with Margot that I kind of jumped the gun with a with a announcement date, so I'm taking it with caution this time around. And I really enjoyed with Margot and with Side that I had either adults or kids with the same disability read over and make sure everything was correct and that I was representing them correctly. And I'm going to continue to do that with these. So once everyone has read them and approved, I'll probably announce maybe within a few weeks to a month. So
we're waiting patiently.
Okay.
Now, where can we get these wonderful books? Where can we get your books?
As of now, they're all going to be available on my website. Margot's on Amazon. People say Sai's not on Amazon, but I thought he was, so I should probably check into that. But right now they're all available through my personal website. It's missioninclusion.com. So everything's on there. All of my extra merchandise and fun collabs are on there as well. So
we're loving it. We're loving it. And we thank you for sitting down with us to talk about your mission inclusion. And we're enjoying, and we can't wait to meet our new characters. I'm going to be getting the scoop. I'm going to be texting you. When is it coming out? Making sure we get the scoop on when your next 2 characters are coming out. And we thank you for allowing us to put your stuff in our box. Oftentimes you may reach out to a person and they don't respond, but you respond immediately. And I thank you so much for giving us that opportunity. And we can't wait because, you got merch. We're going to have to put this merch in this box. But we thank you so much and have a good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Bye, Megan. Have a good night.
Bye.